Okay, so the error actually is, I was a little bit careless here, but I want to remind you that I did not read the question carefully, and the one error actually is this number 0.2. Okay, 0.2. Now I tell you that it should be 0.2 times 36 instead of a 0.2. I tell you the reason. If you read the question, it says it budgets 0.2 machine hours to dye each skein in the dyeing process. Not really, you know that you need 36 skeins to make a rack. So we have to consider the quantity 36 multiplied by 0.2, right? So you cannot just say, well, to make a rack you just need 0.2 machine hours. That's wrong. In dyeing, in order to make a rack, you have to have 36 skeins multiplied by 0.2 machine hours per skein to find out total machine hours. So therefore, in terms of calculation, I need to have 0.2 times 36. So you get a little bit different value. So finally, you calculate, recalculate the result. The total unit cost per output is $1,127.30. So that concludes part 4. Concludes part 3. Now let's take a look at the question 4. The question 4 asks, prepare a revenues budget for blue racks for the year, assuming company sells 200,000 or 185,000 blue racks. Okay, so now let's take a look at this so-called revenue budget. So we have units, okay, and blue racks. So the first case is you're gonna sell 200,000, right? And also we have the selling price, which is $2,000, and then we have total revenues. Total revenues is number of units then multiplied by selling price. So therefore, the total revenues is 400 million. So the next is when you have 185,000 units. The selling price is also the same, $2,000. So the total revenue is similar calculation, but you end up with the different numbers for sure. So you end up with the 370 million. It's a little less. Okay, it's a little less. So that concludes part 4. Yeah, part 4 is probably the easiest one. The part 5 is a little bit time consuming. You need to calculate the budgeted cost of goods sold for blue racks and each sales assumption. So I have to work out 200,000 and 185,000 for sure for you guys. Okay, so let's take a look at the case 1. You have 200,000 units, okay, in sales. So let's take a look at the first case. If the sales is 200,000 racks, so how to find the CGS budget? Okay, the CGS budget. Okay, so it's going to be a little kind of a long process, so please be patient. So I'm going to look at finished goods beginning inventory. Okay, so I will have the following. Okay, I will have the following. Okay, so probably I need to move this down here. So first I need to look at from the schedule. Okay, from all these schedule what I have, and next I'm going to look at what is total. Okay, what is total? So first of all, the FG beginning, I got $0 here. Okay, pretty simple. Okay, you have no beginning inventory of your finished goods, and you have no any inventory, which is very simple here. Then I need to look at my direct materials. Okay, my direct materials. If you go back to the very beginning, I would say part 1. If I go back to the part 1, okay, I'm going to share this Excel file with you so that you can always use that as assistance. If I go back to the requirement, the question 1 in this problem, the total IM usage in dollar amount, I'm looking at 15,405,480. So that's the number I'm going to use in my direct materials usage because I'm calculating the CGS. So so therefore this will be dollar amount 15,405,480. Okay. Then next I'm going to take a look at my direct manufacturing labor. Okay, this actually is very tricky because we have never even calculated this part, right? So in this case, what you need to do is you have to look at, alright, first of all, how many manufacturing labor hours I'm looking at, and also how many units I'm going to manufacture. Okay, so that's a very tough question here. So I would say, first of all, we pay $13, am right? We pay $13 per labor hour. So if you go back to the question, you can take a look at, we also use how many direct labor, how many manufacturing labor hours. Okay, manufacturing labor hours, not machine hours, manufacturing labor hours. So we're looking at 62 direct manufacturing labor hours. So therefore, in my calculation, I need to put the 62 manufacturing hours. Okay, so that's so you need to consider that. Okay, so we pay $13 per manufacturing labor hour. Then we need 36 labor hours for a rack. Then we are making 200,000 racks. So you see all the these numbers, right? So now we are going to formally multiply $13 by 62 machine hours. Manufacturing labor hours. Then by 200,000 racks. So finally, I'm looking at this number, pretty big. So let me see if I can format this number with the dollar sign. Okay, so finally, I'm looking at $161,200,000 for direct labor. Then next, I'm looking at dyeing manufacturing overhead. Okay, dyeing manufacturing overhead. And in this case, you have to go to the question 3 to look at. Alright, so in order to make one rack, I need $86.40 in dyeing. In order to make one rack, I need $158.10 for weaving manufacturing overhead. So these two activities, we have these numbers already in question 3, so we can happily just apply them. Okay, so let's copy paste them here. So for the dyeing manufacturing, it's actually you can repeat the calculations if you like. So we're looking at 0.2 machine hours times 36 skeins, then times we're looking at a rate, which is if I'm correct, if I go back to the prior calculations, I'm looking at $12 per machine hour, right? Per machine hour. Then multiplied by, once again, the first 3 numbers, you multiply them, that's only for one rack. Now you're looking at 200,000 racks, right? So that's what we get here. Alright, so next I'm going to formally multiply all these numbers. 0.2 times 36 times 12 times 200,000. Okay, so I get this number. Let me format it to make sure this is a dollar value. Okay, so we are looking at 17,280,000. So next is about weaving manufacturing overhead. So we are looking at 36 manufacturing labor hours per rack. They are multiplied by $2.55. That's overhead rate. That's only for one rack. Now we are looking at 200,000 racks. Okay. Alright, so then we are going to multiply these numbers. 62 manufacturing labor hours times $2.55 per manufacturing labor hours, then multiplied by 200,000 racks. Okay, so therefore that's going to be the total dollar value. So it's a lot of work, right? So it's a lot of work. So now we are going to calculate all these numbers. I'm going to call that cost of goods available for sale. So I'm going to add all of them. Okay, I'm going to add all of them. Okay, because you're going to sell all of them. And if you add from the 38 line in Excel, if you look at the 38 line all the way to 42, basically you're looking at, I'm going to sell 200,000 for sure. So this is a very, very big number. So finally, you're looking at a dollar value of $225,505,480. Okay, the racks for sale. So then you look at okay, you minus ending, okay, FG, ending FG, and the question says you have none. Okay, you're gonna sell 200,000, so no any inventory. So therefore, the CGS is going to be the difference between these two numbers. Okay, so which is an easy result. So you are going to have a CGS which is $225,505,480. So that's about the first, when you have 200,000 units in sales. Now I'm going to look at 185,000, okay, racks being sold. So I'm going to cheat just a little bit, if you don't mind, because to me it's a lot of similar work. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy everything up to ending inventory, because the only difference is ending inventory. So I'm going to copy paste everything here, and now you have the same CGS available for sale, but you have a different ending inventory, and this time the ending inventory, finished goods ending inventory, is not a zero anymore. It's something else. And what is it? So basically, instead of selling all the racks, you cannot. You have 200,000, and you are able to sell only 185,000. So you have basically 15,000 racks left in your ending inventory. Then you're gonna multiply this by the unit cost. You may ask me, hey, where to find the unit cost? Actually, it's pretty simple. It's pretty simple. Okay. To find the unit cost, all you have to do is you can go back to the question we have there, and you can take a look at the question. Hey, this is the number. The unit cost can be found in basically this question 3. We have finished question 3 already. So the unit cost will be $1,127.30. So I'm going to use that number in my calculation. So let me put down this number here. So we're going to multiply 15,000 racks left in any inventory by $1,127.30 in my question. Okay, so therefore, the ending inventory has the following dollar value. Okay, 15,000 multiplied by $1,127.30. Okay, so let me format that to be the currency. All right, so we have a $16,909,500 in the ending inventory. So therefore, the CGS finally is going to be the difference between these two numbers. Okay, so I'm going to use the CGS, cost of goods available for sale, to minus the ending finished goods inventory. So I'm going to use that to subtract ending inventory. So the final number is $208,595,988. Okay, that's your CGS. So that concludes question 5. Now we can take a look at question 6. The question 6 says, find the budgeted gross margin for blue racks and each sales assumption. Okay, so now the question 6 is not really difficult after you have the CGS and also you have the revenues, all kinds of things. So let's take a look at the question 6 here. Okay, question 6 here. So we're looking at the gross margin. So how to find the gross margin? So all we have to do is just take a look at the two possibilities. So I'm going to look at 2 200,000 production. Okay, 200,000 sales. So in this case, what's happening here is the following, and we started with the revenue, then less CGS, then we have gross margin. Okay. So for the revenue part, okay, so the first is we have total revenues, and you can go back to the question, I think it's the question 4. The question 4 is when you have 200,000 units being sold, we're looking at 400 million revenues. So I'm going to put the 400 million. Sorry. And with CGS, if you are able to sell 200,000 units, the CGS actually you can go back to question 5 to get this number, which is 225 million and 505,480 dollars. So I'm going to put that number down here. Okay. So finally, all you have to do is just do one subtraction. So the gross margin in this case is 174,494,520 dollars. Okay, so that's the first case. Now let's take a look at the second. You have 200,000 in your production, but you can only sell 185,000 in sales, right? So if you have this question, how can you find the gross margin? So it's going to be quite similar. You start with the revenues, less CGS, gross margin, and so on. For the revenue, you also go back to the question 4. Okay, the question 4 has the revenue budget for 185,000 case. So this is 370 million total revenues. And for the CGS, you go to the question 5. You will find that. And for 185,000 sales, the CGS is 208,595,980 dollars. So you can use these numbers in your calculation. So I'm going to do the calculations, and 370 million. Okay, that's your revenues in this case, and the CGS is 208 million and 595,980 dollars. So the difference will give you the gross margin. So you just do one subtraction. So the gross margin in this case is 161 million and 404,020 dollars. Okay, so that finishes this entire exercise. It's a really long exercise, and thank you for your patience, and I hope you enjoy this exercise and really gain the insights into budgeting, especially for questions like this. Alright, so I will talk to you next time.